Do you feel like you're trying your hardest, but your garden is still struggling? I'm gonna share 10 simple things that if you do them every day, your garden will thrive. I'm Angela from Growing in the Garden. My garden is in Mesa in the low desert of Arizona. I love sharing garden inspiration and helpful tips so you can be successful in your garden too. It's easy to focus only on the big things, those big projects, the big tasks that you need to get done in the garden. But more often than not, it's the small, simple things we do on a daily basis that are going to have the biggest impact in our garden. Today, I'll show you my daily routine. The first thing I like to do is check the watering. I don't want to just assume that the soil needs watered. So the easiest way to do that is to get your hands a little bit dirty and just dig down in there. This soil is nice and hydrated. See how it sticks to my fingers? It's got plenty of moisture in here, so I don't need to water. It actually rained last night. The garden looks so happy, and that means that this soil is definitely hydrated, so I won't be watering today. As gardeners, we tend to overwater rather than underwater. So what are the signs you can look for to help you know if you're overwatering? If your plants aren't growing well and the soil is always wet, that is an easy way to tell that you're watering too much. If you see mushrooms popping up, that definitely means there's too much moisture in the soil. Back off a little bit on the watering, remove the mushrooms, your plants are going to be much happier. Being intentional about your watering means that you're checking the soil to make sure that it needs watering before you water. An easy way to tell, again, put your hands in the soil. If they come out clean, that means there's not enough moisture in the soil. Go ahead and water. Depending on the season, I'm adjusting the frequency of the watering, and that can take a little more effort because you're trying to figure out how much water the garden actually needs. And you might be moving those days further apart or bringing them closer together as temperatures heat up. Some plants are going to need extra attention when it comes to watering. When you're planting seeds, you make sure and keep that area hydrated until those seeds emerge. Transplants might need more frequent watering as those roots grow out into your bed and become established. I like to plan my time in the garden for when the watering system is running. That way I can see problems with broken emitters, leaks, broken timers, and fix them while that problem is small before it damages the plants. Watering is definitely tricky. This is a hard one to get right, but spending a little bit of time each day and being intentional about how much you water your garden is going to help your garden thrive. I've got lots of seedlings popping up in this bed, so I keep a close eye and get them thinned as early as possible. Thinning seedlings early tells those seedlings there's plenty of room to grow and spread. If you wait too long to thin seedlings, they often become stunted and don't grow well. The earlier you can get in and thin them to the proper spacing, the better. When you thin seedlings young, those roots are growing straight down and they're super easy just to pull up. If you wait longer, the roots have had a chance to spread out more, and you'll probably disturb other seedlings as you're thinning. These turnip seeds are small. I planted too many, but I like to plant 9 turnips per square, and that's what I'm thinning down to. Now they have room to grow. Spend a little bit of time each day pruning and deadheading. Plants will be much happier if they're kept pruned and things are tidy. Daily pruning and tidying up keeps this task manageable and doesn't let things get out of hand. Here's what I'm looking for. I like to prune off dead and dying leaves. I prune suckers out of plants. What's a sucker? Look for the central stem growing straight up and then lateral branches. A sucker is going to be coming out at a 45-degree angle. You just want to get in there, cut it out. All right, this sucker looks a little bit big, but it's still important to get it out of there. Deadhead spent flowers. Cut back flowers to encourage branching. Look, keeping it cut back encourages branching. I cut this one back, and now instead of 1 stem, I've got 3 growing up. Keep my herbs pruned back. Keep my garden clean and pick up any debris. Lost this branch in the storm last night, but I will definitely take it inside and use it as cut flowers. A big part of what I do in the garden is observation, and that includes looking for bugs, the good guys and the bad guys. Just because I see them doesn't mean I'm going to do anything, but I like to know what's going on in the garden. Being aware helps you decide when to take action and when to sit back and wait for the beneficial insects to show up and do your job for you. As you make daily observation a habit, you're going to notice specific pest patterns throughout the year, each year. So you won't be as surprised when temperatures start to cool down and the aphids start to come in. You'll know that after the aphids come the beneficial insects. So don't be too quick to treat. A few aphids or chewed leaves aren't cause for alarm. I like using this app called Seek to help me identify the bugs that are in my garden. Another good one is Picture This. This app also helps diagnose plant diseases, which can be very helpful. Look for holes. You can bet there'll be a pest on the back side of that leaf. So this is a cabbage worm on the back side of this leaf. So I like to pick it off and squish it. It's a bad guy. I'm gonna pick it off and squish it. They can be tiny. Look at all of these. Just keep picking them off, look for them. They can be hard to spot sometimes, but if you see a hole, you'll probably find one. Sometimes the birds help you out and will eat these too. If you see insect frass, you can bet there's probably a caterpillar nearby. Check the undersides of leaves. That's where the aphids like to hang out. If there's a severely affected leaf, I go ahead and remove it. So this leaf has lots of leaf miner damage, aphid damage. I'm just gonna go ahead and get rid of it. This one too. Learn to spot the first signs of disease in your garden. Removing the affected leaves is often a good first step in treating garden diseases. Daily observation will help you know what further treatment steps are needed if the problem progresses. Clean your tools meticulously. Keeping things clean helps prevent those diseases from spreading. Dispose of any diseased leaves in the garbage, not your compost. These little white spots are powdery mildew. So not only am I gonna pick these off, throw them away, I'm gonna wash my hands, wash my tools, keep everything clean. I definitely don't want this to spread. I prune off all the affected leaves, even if there's just a little bit, to try and keep it from spreading. So I'm gonna pay special attention to this plant each day and make a decision about whether I leave it or pull it to get those pests and diseases out of my garden. Help your plants find the trellises. Many plants will find them on their own and climb up, but others need your help in making sure that they stay attached to the trellis and grow the way that you want them to. A lot of times peas will grow straight up, but all you have to do is just guide them over to the trellis. Once they know it's there, those tendrils will reach out and they'll climb up the whole thing. You see those little tendrils are so cute. Pay attention to the blossoms in your garden. What's blooming? Do you need to hand pollinate anything? That is a big reason why going out first thing in the morning is a good idea. Many blossoms that require pollination are only open for a few hours in the morning. Check your vermicomposting bins. Look for those that the level's gone down and see if you need to add more scraps or harvest any castings. So right now I'm taking off the wood chips off the top of this. There's lots of castings in here, but the worms are still doing their thing. So I'm going to give them some more scraps and then leave them alone. Cover it back up with a nice thick layer of wood chips. Let those worms get back to work. Worms aren't too picky about what they eat. Fruits, vegetables, things like that. When I'm checking my bins, I like to see if there's any castings that are ready to harvest, and it looks like this bin has some. Castings look a little bit different than soil. They have kind of a grainy texture. And so this bin looks like it has some castings that I can go ahead and harvest. Found some grubs. My chickens are going to be so happy. Here you go. That's what the castings look like. A little bit of a grainy texture, different than soil. I'm gonna harvest as many castings as I can here and then feed some to my plants. Lots of good castings. There's a few bigger pieces in here and maybe a worm or two, but that's fine. The worms will make a new home. And when I put food scraps in here, the worms are gonna come back in the bins. Put those wood chips back on top. I have a lot of beds and a lot of worm bins, But spending a little bit of time on 1 or 2 worm bins each day, and then feeding that bed with the castings, maybe sharing some with my containers, is a great way to make sure everything is getting a little bit throughout the season. Harvest every day. Look around, see what's ready to harvest, and harvest things when they're young and tender for the best flavor. Don't leave them on the vine. Crops left on the vine too long become tough, woody. You don't want that. You want to be able to pick them at the peak of freshness, bring them inside, and enjoy them right away. When you're harvesting, that tells the plant it's time to produce more, so keep things picked. If you leave crops on the plant too long, you're telling the plant that its job is done. It doesn't need to make more. So picking often is the best way to get the most production out of your garden. Lots of holes on these. I think I'm feeding these to the chickens. The best time to harvest a loofah is when it's still soft. You can feel that skin kind of separating inside, but before all of it turns brown like that. When it gets brown, it gets much harder to peel. So this is about the perfect time to harvest this loofah. And finally, enjoy your time in the garden. Try to find a spot to relax and take a minute to observe the beauty and wildlife all around you.